Today I'm going to demonstrate how I created this drawing in charcoal on stretched canvas. I'm also going to show you how I seal the charcoal to the canvas so that it will not rub off and it will be a completed artwork ready to hang on your wall. Once this is completed and sealed, you can then add acrylic paint or oil paint or glazes to keep creating a more interesting painting. And before I get started on the demonstration, I want to show you two more artworks. One is completed and the other one I've been layering oil paint over the charcoal. This artwork began as a charcoal drawing on stretched canvas that I sealed. And once I sealed it, I began layering on oil paint in the form of glazes, brushwork, and with a palette knife. Now this artwork is not finished, but I wanted to give you an idea of the incredible potential you can take your artwork by using this process. This drawing is completed and you can see this charcoal does not rub off and it is completely sealed to the canvas. To begin, you'll want a primed surface such as a stretch canvas or wooden panel. And I like to use 2 to 3 coats of gesso, and you can either lightly sand it to create a smooth surface or you can create it by the technique I demonstrate in this video. I begin by drawing the outline of this Highland Cow using vine charcoal. And for reference, I'm using a 20 by 20 inch stretched canvas. And since I used a very large grid method when I laid down my drawing, I noticed that the grid itself in vine charcoal didn't erase very well. So I'm going back in with some of the gesso and just going over those remnants of charcoal, just so that I can start with a real clean, fresh surface. And these are the art tools I'll be using today and demonstrating how to build up all of the interesting layers and mark making within this drawing. As you can see here, I have blocked in the initial drawing using vine charcoal and eraser work, and I'll be demonstrating this entire process in the layers to come. But first, I want to apply 2 generous coats of workable fixative. This will give tooth to the surface and really help me as I continue building this drawing. I like to establish the eyes pretty early in the process. So here I'm establishing some of the details and some of the darks using a soft charcoal pencil. And using the sponge applicator, I'm establishing some of the deeper darks using black pan pastel. I've also used this applicator by dipping it into powdered charcoal or rubbing it onto a compressed charcoal stick. All of these drawing mediums work really well in helping you to establish the darks, and the applicator makes blending super easy to do. I really love using this applicator tool, and it actually is kind of like painting. And if any of the supplies I use today are interesting for you, I will leave links to these supplies in the description area below the video, so you can check them out yourself. Another thing I really like about this applicator tool is as you develop your drawing, less and less charcoal is on the sponge applicator, and you can actually use it to create lighter passages onto your drawing. Or you can even wipe the charcoal off on a paper towel. There are so many different possibilities in using the sponge applicator, and I have to tell you, it's really fun to use. As I develop the image, I add more compressed charcoal using this sponge applicator tool. The charcoal really does deepen the contrast and sharpen the details. Layer by layer, this drawing really starts to come alive. And now I'm going to do some soft blending and push some of this charcoal back using this soft brush. And this actually is a makeup brush, and I find them to be really effective, really affordable, and they don't seem to drop hairs like some of the painting brushes do. I know this stage might look a little rough, but this really is a layering process, and I will be smoothing a lot of this back momentarily, but it's really important to get those darks established and well in place. And now I'm using the brush to just soften some of the contrast, soften some of the hard edges of the charcoal I've been establishing. And this sets the stage for more eraser work. At this point, I decided to use some of my powdered charcoal and put it onto my large soft brush. This way I can create some beautiful light gray passages and smooth out some of the existing charcoal. I really like using the blending stump too, and because it's dark from using it so much, it actually can be used to apply charcoal, just because it has remnants of charcoal embedded into the paper. So before I add some of the finishing touches, I'm going to add another couple of coats of the workable fixative, just to give the surface a little more tooth. And you can see I'm applying the charcoal right now with a very light touch. These are the final finishing touches for the drawing. And then it'll be time to seal the canvas and seal all of this charcoal onto the surface so it will never ever rub off. So now it's time to seal the charcoal to the canvas. And the product that I like to use is this isolation coat by Golden. And there are other products you can use that I'm sure will work just fine, but this is my personal preference. And I find it really easy to use. And what I do is pour it into a fine misting spray bottle. I actually got this in the watercolor supplies at the art store, and I dilute it with about 20% water. So now what I'm going to do is just lightly spray the isolation coat onto the canvas. So I spray one light coat onto the surface of the charcoal on canvas and I allow it to dry. And then I'll go and spot check some of the areas and see if it rubs off on my finger. And if anything rubs off, I give it another coat. Usually 2 coats is sufficient, and especially a second coat on the areas of the charcoal that are quite dark and thick. And once this is sealed, it is finished and ready to be hung on your wall. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel. Give it a like, and I will see you back here really soon.